Hey Richard, my man of many talents. How you going?
I'm going well. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a long time, man.
Oh, very long.
Cool. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first I've got these questions up here. So what's your back? So these are triple barrel questions because I know you have a lot to offer. Um,
Mm.
what's your background and how did you get into advertising? What clients have you worked on and why advertising?
Okay. Like many people, I found out, fell into advertising. It was not my first choice. I was actually working at a bank in New Zealand, ANZ Bank in New Zealand, and after 2 years, figured out I didn't really enjoy banking. Um, and I came across an ad in the paper that said, if you want to get out of the boring corporate world, give us a call. And
Yeah.
that's all it took. I was hooked. I gave the number a call. It was a recruitment agency. They basically sold me on the culture of the place. They didn't actually tell me what the place was and what they did. They
Mhm.
just said there was free drinks, free food, pool tables,
Awesome.
table tennis. If you got kids, you can bring your kids in. It's a pretty chilled environment. I was like, great, I'll go. Send
Awesome.
me, send me to the interview. Um, but I met up with them and they basically told me it was an advertising agency, and the role they had was actually for an assistant to the finance director because of my background in banking and my education.
Mm,
They said I'd be a good fit,
yeah.
and it was just a matter of finding out if I fit the culture there. I turned up, fell in love with the place,
Nice.
learned my way around how a advertising agency operates financially first, the structure.
Hmm.
And then I happened upon the creative department, and
Mm,
that's another story. So the creative department to me were foreign entities. They were people that didn't really talk to us folks down in accounts. We're
yeah.
on the lower levels. Um, but just quickly, what happened was I was in charge of getting people's timesheets in, and as you know, timesheets are really important when you're forecasting and basically charging clients.
Yep. Yep.
Creators are very notorious for not very being very good at filling them out,
Yep. Yep.
which means a lot of creative accounting by the accounts department.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of made it my goal to make sure that people did, and I did it traditionally. I just sent out a traditional email that said, "Can you please have your timesheets in by the end of the month? We need to bill the clients." Yada yada yada. No response. No
Mhm.
timesheets.
Mhm.
So the next time, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try and add a bit of fun, bit of spice to it. Basically, who I am. So I kind of inserted a lighthearted joke and got a few responses, and people handed in the timesheets.
Nice.
And I kept doing it, and snowboard and snowboard and snowboard. Then one time I was actually away, and when I came back, the creative director came downstairs and said, "Hey, Rich, we missed your email this month. Sorry. Um, we love what you write. Have you ever heard about? Have you ever? Um, I do know much about copywriting, and I had no idea. And he was a lovely man. His name is Rob Sherlock.
Yeah. Nice.
And Rob gave me my first ever book on copywriting and advertising, and it all started from there.
Awesome. Awesome,
Yeah,
man. That's an awesome story. Cool. So,
yeah.
what clients have you worked on? And
Oh, it's probably best if I work backwards here in Australia, back to New Zealand, and a few other clients. So, notable ones here in Australia were we did some work for St George, Westpac. Was lucky enough to I would work on Nestle a bit.
yeah.
Um, yep, I worked on. We got to be part of the Coke campaign, the very successful share of Coke. Not a major part, but we got to be there at the agency when it all happened and take part.
No.
Um, who else is there? There is V energy drinks.
Yep.
That was a great one to work for.
Yep.
In New Zealand, um, did a bit of Qantas work.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And most recently, I've helped some small agencies work on Vivo, the mobile brand.
Oh, cool.
I've done some work in the Pacific Islands for brands such as Twisties and a few tourism accounts. Yeah,
Nice.
it's
Nice.
varied and yeah.
Nice. That's quite an impressive portfolio, mate.
Yeah.
So tell me about this portfolio project you co-founded, and what was the aim, and why did you start this program?
I think the biggest, the thing that came out of it um, was that the concept of the idea that ideas can actually come from anyone and anywhere, no matter what your abilities. And it just happened to be when we were creating this program, the opportunity to work with Disability Services Australia came up,
Yep.
and pitching the idea, I don't believe that they actually understood what actually went into or had any idea of what the advertising industry was like in terms of, skill set and even just getting into the advertising industry itself is so hard. I mean, there's
Yeah.
limited numbers every year.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are buying for it. So I think that understanding that great ideas can come from anywhere and from anyone, regardless of ability, whether it's physical or otherwise. If you've got a great idea, you have a great idea, and I think just giving young people the platform to understand that they could have this ability and they could make a career out of being creative.
Nice. Cool. Okay, so you have an interesting background and you have over 2 decades of advertising experience as a creative, but you also have a background in social services. What was that experience? How has that experience shaped you in the later part of your career? And being so successful in advertising and creative, why did you move into human services?
The first point, it shaped me. It's for me confirmed a lot of things in terms of what I feel human experience really is.
Yep,
I myself have been through the youth system as a client,
yep.
so I understand. I think some of the experiences and the emotions that young people can feel if they feel disadvantaged or in situations where they are not in control. And in terms of the role itself, it was an eye opener in terms of being able to, I think having that background helped me connect with the young people. They are very good truth seekers, I believe is probably a good way to explain it.
yep,
They can tell people that are truthful, not only in the words, but their intentions. And my intentions was always to help. I quickly found out that we cannot be the savior of anyone else, really. But what we can do is offer support, tools, understanding, empathy um, for whatever situation a young person may be going through, and no judgment or less judgment.
yep,
Yeah. But in terms of shaping me now, I believe everything happens for a reason, and I came into that world
yep.
at the right time for myself personally. It not only benefited, I think, the young people I work for, or the company or the organization I work for, it benefited me personally with some of my personal relationships with my own children and other people that I interact with.
Oh, excellent.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah, so back to advertising. You have worked on the world's biggest brands right through to small businesses. How does your approach differ, and what are the similarities, and what is your process when approaching a creative brief? And what would your advice be to the people to really develop their creative skills in a problem-solving way, as far as solving communication problems?
Just off the top of my head, I've never really thought about it like this before, but overall, for big clients,
Yeah,
don't be afraid to think small, and for small clients, don't be afraid to think big. So what I mean by that is a lot of bigger clients we've worked on can have a great vision, great products, great services, have a great vision, but they can sometimes be lost in trying to amplify that message they believe is the key. Sometimes you've got to look below the surface of what the offering is, and just have a good look around and make sure you're not missing anything. You're not missing any little opportunities that could make the big vision even bigger, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you can focus on the brief and focus on what the brief is telling you. But if in your heart you feel something like, hey, I really like where this is going, but hey, this little gem on the side here, I don't think anyone's looked at that. So don't be afraid to look at the small details in the big briefs.
Yeah.
And for the little clients, don't be afraid to dream big. There's instances where I have been able to witness and see clients, or been able to work on clients where we've imagined, why not? Or what if we did this happened? The beauty of being small is that you can, and if anything, if you are small, you're never going to be able to compete with the big clients with the big budgets and do the same things. You can't replicate what they're doing.
Yep.
So being small and nimble is sometimes your best asset as a client. So sorry, what was that last part?
So the last part was, so what is your process when approaching a creative brief, and what would you advise people to be able to really develop their creative skills in problem-solving communication problems?
I think so. I'm just going. So first off, now my approach to a creative, if you've got a spare wall in your room and you've got loads of paper and blue tack or whatever, any little thought, any little idea is not wrong. I think one of the it escapes me now. There are techniques you can use. One of them that I use, and when I was sort of junior to mid-level, was having the USP in the middle of a wall.
For those who don't,
and then any
that means unique selling point.
Yeah, sorry, unique selling point. Having that in the middle of the wall, and then any little idea, any little image that I had, I would stick that, coming out of that key thought, and just have words, images, just put it up on the wall.
Nice.
And then leave it up there overnight. This industry talk is the overnight test.
Yeah.
Come back the next day and see what resonates. Some stuff you're going to look at and think that is freaking awesome, and then some stuff you're going to be like, what was I thinking? 99% of the stuff is going to be, what was I thinking?
Yeah, right.
And that stuff you put it aside. So initially every idea is a good idea.
Yeah.
And then you'll see the ideas that are getting closer to where you want to go. I think the key thing too is to understand that you will be employed as a creative because of the way you think. And the way you think, this may sound strange, but if you don't know how you think, look for somebody's ideas who you like, and that will give you an idea of your kind of train of thought, how you think. And you can look at their work and think, okay, if I was to do the same idea, would I do it the same way, or would I do it slightly different?
Yeah.
Or you can kind of like, someone basically said to me, find creativity in others until you have your own.
Oh, nice.
And that was the learning point for me. Otherwise, unless you're really like those guys that are just born with it, can decipher a brief and come up with a great idea just like that, they are far and few between. Find someone, emulate them until you come up with your own way of thinking.
Nice. Thanks for that. So what are you up to these days? And tell me about how you got involved in what your day-to-day work life looks like now.
Oh my gosh. My day-to-day work life. I'm working for a young entrepreneur. He's actually a good friend of our families. Um,
Nice.
I, I really believe in what he is doing, and for such a young man, it's amazing what he's been able to achieve. And it's not even been. I don't think I've. It'll be a year. I think in April. I've been working for him in his
All right.
business. He's in the food and supplements industry,
Mm-hmm.
so he produces supplements. Um, he's actually a private label manufacturer as well. So he creates protein supplements um, for other companies, some very, very big companies. So
Wow.
his genius is being able to create recipes, food science, to create these supplements, protein snacks
Yep.
that just not only nutritionally are on the money, but taste-wise, best on market.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, what I'm doing everything and anything for him, advising where I can on brand and so forth. But it's day-to-day work. We're just kind of grinding out the work at the moment. We're all brand new to this whole um, manufacturing bit and entrepreneurship. He's been doing that for several years, but it's this whole mix between entrepreneurship and the manufacturing side of things is really taking us all for a bit of a spin. But there's exciting things coming up brand wise for that. We will start delving into that. And I think that's the exciting part for me, even though it's quite hard now, day to day. The exciting thing for me, I think, when we grow his personal brand and his product,
Yeah.
his own products, we're going to have so much fun because we all understand the vision and the idea behind the product. And more importantly, the day to day has been really beneficial for me because I get to interact with the customers one on one when they message through for inquiries or whatnot.
Oh, cool.
And I tell you what, the supplements industry, the clients, if you think about it, people are working out every day, either bodybuilding or they're powerlifting. They want to look good for a reason. And there's a reason why a lot of people want to physically look good. And it goes deeper than just wanting to look good.
Yeah.
And if you can tap into that
Yeah.
um, as a brand that understands people and why they do that, and we understand why they're doing this.
Nice.
It can go a long way to engaging with them. But the future's looking. Oh, I'm still doing. I do. Sorry, freelance work. I'm actually working on. What am I working on now? I'm working on a new Australian menswear company.
Oh, nice.
So I've got to come up with the name
Oh, wow.
and the brand story. So
Cool.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool to work on.
Yeah.
Some briefs are they're either boring but pay well and are stressful, or stressful and don't pay that well. But no, this one I'm enjoying, and just the thinking behind the brands, being able to research. You know what? And that's a really, really cool thing about the creative industry is I had to research more into Australian menswear here and the brands,
Yeah.
and there's so many successful brands I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, yeah, and it was really, really an eye opener for me. And some of the stories are fantastic. So it's given me a lot of food for thought, a lot of ammunition to come up with ideas.
Cool.
Um, and I think that's another thing to understand with the creative industry is because you've got to know who you're talking to and know what you're talking about. You get to do a lot of research and see a lot of things in business not many people are privy to. So you should come out smarter, especially after a couple of decades.
Cool. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, finally, we're going to talk about. So you have been very active in cause-related initiatives in New Zealand and here in Australia. Tell me about these projects and campaigns and how this means to you and the impact you have had with these great projects.
Yeah, there's been a number of organizations we've been lucky enough to work with. And yeah, cause-related,
like the UNR and all that stuff, and right through to
there's so many opportunities to be able to share the good in the world, and when you have those opportunities, you've really got to take the time to understand what you can do with it. And I think one of the campaigns is Say Yeah Nah campaign in New Zealand. Our target market were the Pacific Island community youth between 18 to 25. And they had a mainstream campaign that did really, really well.
Yeah,
it was very well funded. But after the researchers showed them that it wasn't quite resonating with young Polynesians between the ages of 18 and 25.
Yeah, right.
Who were high on the certain what's a word for it? They showed up a lot in certain data that are related to alcohol and alcohol related incidents. So even though this campaign worked well in mainstream, it didn't work that well really in a key target audience. So our agency was asked to work on the brief and sort of just change it up a bit, so it did relate to Māori and Pacific youth of that age group. And we were asked specifically because we were a Māori and Pacific agency, and we changed up the, not so much the messaging of the campaign, but just the way the campaign structure. So we went from a ad-based, your typical hero characters telling a story, to we went out to the community and said, hey, we called it the White Tribe Challenge. We said, we're looking for a tribe of young people that are willing to stand up, for their communities. And basically we're looking for leaders. And then from when we found these young people that put their hand up and said, I'd like to be a leader and lead this creative journey, we tasked them to find tribe members. And each tribe was given the same brief. How would you speak to our people, young people, around the say yeah, nah, drink less, not abstinence, but just drink less, and say yeah to having a good time, but nah to getting drunk, kind of thing. That was basically in a nutshell what it was all about. And they came up with some really, really creative ideas and film videos and created their own ads. And it got national attention. We built a community out of that has, I still believe, going now. So we took a little bit of an idea and we just thought, you know what? I think that's understanding who you're talking to. That's probably the biggest takeout from that. We understood who we were talking to, and that our communities love to do things together. And there's never a shortage of people that are willing to put their hand up to try and do something, and we knew that.
Nice.
But here in Australia, lucky enough to work with Salvos.
Oh, cool.
Some work with Red Cross.
It's
been great.
Yeah, the Salvation Army, the Give a Lunch, that was really successful on social media.
Yeah, that was highly successful, and that was another opportunity that we saw that we could really amplify not only the message around what they did every year. So that every year Salvos would ask for donations so they could put on Christmas dinner and host a number of people at their headquarters or in Sydney somewhere. And I think this would have been the first time that they kind of had a good crack at social media. The concept behind that was literally go out. We asked people to share their lunch, share what they would do, what they're having for lunch. Just taking on that food phenom with Instagram at the time.
Yeah.
People were doing it naturally, so we're like, hey, why don't you share your lunch for a good cause? And they, the hashtag share a lunch salvos. And then we kind of reached out to a few influencers at the time, and they shared the message with everybody, which obviously went back to salvos, and they not only got traffic but a lot. I think up the donations by double digits. So
Yeah.
happy with that.
That's awesome, man. Hey, thanks so much for doing this interview and giving insights into your experience in different facets, particularly advertising, but also all the different facets of work that you've done. It's been much appreciated, Richard.
No problem. It's been great to catch up and actually talk about it, to be honest. It's been a little while.
Awesome.